broadcast. We will have all
talking through some tough times.
Every night. And I just hope he comes home.
We'll hear more from the home front and the war front and bring you all the breaking developments as we continue our coverage of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Good morning, Edie. What a weekend, huh?
It really was, and it's a weekend that I think a lot of Americans spent glued to their television sets or their radios, listening to the information. And for those of us who felt that the war was justified, it was a time of really sitting back and reassessing everything and questioning, were we right? Because it's not my life on the line. It's not your life on the line. It's these men and women who are over there. And this morning, I've got to tell you, I spent a bulk of the weekend thinking about how grateful I am that that you all have raised kids that are willing to go out there and quite frankly, die for us, for our safety. And it's what this nation has depended on since its beginning. But it blows my mind that there are such incredible Americans, and we are grateful.
Absolutely. And they are absolutely pros at what they do. They've chosen to do what they do. They're absolutely pros at what they do. They're dedicated. And I know nothing's like the real thing, but when you talk to them, and even the ones that experienced, the guys that were in 91 were more keyed up than the guys that never saw action before. They couldn't wait to get back there because most, I can't speak for 500,000 or 200,000 soldiers, most really saw the big picture there, a chance to change the complexion of the Middle East, and that's what this administration's been talking about.
Things are changing right now. Constantly. John Scott has the very latest war developments. John?
Edie, thank you. Coalition airstrikes pound Baghdad through the night and into the afternoon. There's word our troops on the ground have started moving in toward the city itself. A senior military source says our troops are fighting the Republican Guard now on the outskirts of Baghdad. Iraq claims it shot down 2 Apache helicopters and captured their pilots. So far, the U.S. military confirms only 1 Apache is down. The Pentagon has no word yet on what's happened to the crew. Saddam Hussein appears on Iraqi television claiming his troops will achieve victory. U.S. and British military sources say the broadcast was most likely not live, and it sounded suspiciously generic. That's the latest update from Operation Iraqi Freedom. Guys, back to you.
All right. Thank you very much, John Scott. Of course, they're going over that videotape at the Pentagon to figure out if it's live or if it's Memorex. Mike Emanuel is live there right now. Mike.
Well, Steve, Edie Bryan, good morning once again. We can tell you that videotape is going to get very careful analysis. More explosions are being reported in Baghdad this morning as coalition forces prepare for a showdown as they get to Iraq's capital city. We're expecting an update later in the day from Pentagon officials here, but already this morning we can tell you that the British Defense Secretary has talked about resistance as coalition forces approach Baghdad.
We have anticipated for some time the idea that there might be a defense with irregular forces of the towns and cities, and we have no intention of falling into that particular trap.
Meanwhile, U.S. troops surrounded a facility at Najaf, a city 90 miles south of Baghdad. It is described as a 100-acre facility that was camouflaged to blend in with the desert, surrounded by an electrified fence and run by an Iraqi general. Is it a chemical weapons facility? At this point, Pentagon officials say they are not sure. More investigation is necessary, and it's our understanding experts are on the way there for analysis. No official reaction from the Pentagon at this point to the Saddam Hussein speech that ran on Iraqi television earlier this morning. U.S. military officials say they are skeptical and that the tape is likely dated. There were no obvious references to recent developments in the war, leading some to believe it is old tape. But again, that tape is likely to get very careful analysis from the U.S. intelligence community. Back to you guys in New York.
Mike, I'm wondering, I know that they've got the general you mentioned in captivity. Has he started talking? Have they indicated whether or not anyone they've got in captivity has given them information that might lead them to the smoking gun, to the proof?
Well, Edie, we've heard that they have several Iraqi high-ranking officers in their possession, and that they are talking to U.S. investigators. So the hope is that they will be cooperative, fully cooperative, and that U.S. military forces and coalition forces will get the information they need to track down if there are any chemical weapons in that facility or anywhere nearby.
All right. Thank you very much. Mike Emanuel live at the Pentagon.
You know, Colonel Hunt, we're going to go out to Rick Leventhal now, a man that he's 223 miles, we understand, where everything heated up southeast of Baghdad, when all of a sudden we realized the Marines that were moving forward looked like they were looking at surrendering villagers. Then they found out there were officers dressed as civilians.
Yeah, he's been in the first firefight of the war. Rick has the track he was in. He's in a reconnaissance unit with the Marine Corps,
right.
And he's just been in the biggest fight of the war, which he had last night.
Well, let's find out what's going on. Rick Leventhal with the 1st Marines 3rd Light Armor Recon Battalion.
He's done a great job.
Good morning.
Good morning to you guys. Very busy couple of days for these Marines, and a very busy night last night as well. They spent much of this day filling up their fuel tanks, stocking up on food and water, and recharging their batteries, getting ready for the next push forward. Last night was insane. There was so much fighting all around us, and some of the guys today actually went out to the site where the fighting took place and recovered some of the weaponry that was used against them. This is one of them. This is an RPG that the Iraqis were using and did actually fire at Marines. They tell me this fires a 73mm rocket that, if it had hit one of the light armored vehicles, could have done some serious damage. But fortunately for the Marines, the Iraqis missed. There were no Marine casualties. This is the high explosive round that's fired by the 25mm Bushmaster chain gun that is on all of the light armored vehicles in the 3rd LAR, and I want to show you the video from last night. You'll see these things in action. This was last night. We're driving down a road, and all of a sudden started taking fire from the enemy, and at that point the Marines began returning fire. They tell us that the Iraqis were using RPGs, they had anti-aircraft artillery, they had a lot of small weapons and some mortars as well. The Marines responded with hundreds of rounds of these 25mm explosive shells. They also used their machine guns on the LAVs, and the fight went on for about an hour. We're told there were more than 300 Iraqis involved in this. They were dismounted from their vehicles, running through the sand dunes, popping up and down, trying to take shots at the Marines, and the Marines were returning fire, and we can confirm that there were dozens of Iraqi fatalities, and again, no casualties on the part of the Marines. And I want to let you listen to some of the gunners who were involved in this conflict, what they had to say this morning.
We lit them up. They hit the deck, but they continued to advance. They were within probably 50, 60 meters. So we just kept the fire up, and then the 25 right next to me, he let up his coax, and then they started to retreat finally.
So what was going through your mind last night? I hope I don't die. I hope I don't kill any friendlies. No fratricide. Hope everyone makes it out alive. A lot of my buddies were up, farther up, doing what the company push was doing, so just hope everyone was all right.
Someone told me it was your birthday yesterday.
It was.
It's quite a birthday party.
Not really.
A Marine fighting on his birthday. Also today, some members of the 3rd LAR actually came across some Iraqi POWs, or EPWs, I should say, enemy prisoners of war, and detained them. And if you want to come back live, we can show you the area where those EPWs were detained. You might be able to make out a small pickup truck over there. That is the truck that they were driving, and I'm told that last night some of the enemy forces were driving similar vehicles out in the desert when this conflict took place. So they have captured some men believed who may have been involved in last night's fighting. Clearly, this place is not yet clear of hostile forces, and the Marine efforts to win this war continue. Back to you in New York.
Rick, as we were looking at the nighttime video where the shooting was coming out of your vehicle toward the enemy, how far were you from the bad guys?
Well, it's hard for me to say because we couldn't see the targets. The Marines had the night vision and thermal technology. They could see these guys out in the desert. We couldn't see them, but I could see where the rounds were hitting.
Yeah.
And I'm told today that some of these guys were as close as 50 meters away. Some of them were much further than that, but there's a tremendous range on the 25mm chain gun, so they were able to strike targets well over 1,000 meters away. But again, some of these guys were very, very close. They were aggressive. They were approaching the convoy, not turning and running in the other direction when the firing began. So it was closer than any of us would have liked.
Rick, when you went out and saw the bodies today, were any of them wearing uniforms? I'm talking about your opponent.
Yeah, no, I didn't see the bodies. Do you guys know if they were any of the victims were wearing uniforms? Ooh, I couldn't tell you, but we have been told that some of these guys are dressing as civilians, and also that civilians are being armed and told, you better fight or we're going to come back and kill your families.
All right, Rick Leventhal live out in the Iraqi desert. Thank you very much, and once again, great job bringing those pictures to us.
He has volunteered for that assignment, and it's not a safe one.
Still with us, we have, of course, Colonel David Hunt. And right now, let's bring in retired Air Force General Paul Weaver from our D.C. Bureau. He served in our Air Force during the first Persian Gulf War. Good morning to you, Major General.
Good morning to you all.
Well, what do you make of, there's word, and in fact we've seen from Iraqi television, an Apache helicopter is down, as Colonel David Hunt pointed out, though it's all locked up. It looks like they made a safe escape.
I think David's right. Within the next 4 to 5 hours, we're going to know really where our aircrew members are located, and I'm sure that that helicopter is not going to be sitting there very long.
What happens when they do go down? Let's say there was a mechanical failure. They brought it down safely. They were able to get out of it safely. What do they do so that we can find them and find the chopper?
Well, I'm sure that he had mutual support out there with another a fleet of choppers. And if he was having mechanical problems, which it really looks could be the case, he's talking to other pilots in the area as well. And I believe he made certain arrangements to ensure that he would put it down in a safe place where he could possibly escape on another chopper or escape into the countryside. But I believe that we're going to know, and hopefully a successful conclusion here in a very short period of time.
Well, as we look at the big picture about how everything's unfolding, and we don't know exactly where our forces are, the Marines as well as the 3rd Infantry, but we understand they're getting very, very close to Baghdad itself. And Colonel, let me phrase this to you. Are we getting a little bit too stretched out? And if so, how long do we wait to come together with our supply lines before we go forward to see what Baghdad has to offer?
There's been a couple of times, because of the speed of the tank and how slow the trucks are that have the fuel on it, they've had to jump fuel ahead. Ollie North talked about it with his Marines. That's a little bit of a stretch. But other than that, no, they've had enough stops now to do things. The stop now, I believe, is political. I don't think it has anything to do with the tactics of this. I think it has to do with how can we get this. We're being so good, so precise, because we're doing a war of liberation, not trying to conquer this place, that it's being very deliberate. The Air Force precision and the Navy's precision is remarkable. And all the Army's trying to do is back that up until we have to go and fight.
General Weaver, when a chopper goes down like that, is it wise to leave it? I mean, explain this to me, because I don't know anything about it. Do you want to leave it there to hopefully get it back later, or do you want to send in somebody to blow it up so that they don't get it?
No, you want to get rid of it. We've got plenty in our arsenal, and there could be equipment on that chopper that we just soon have not in the hands of the enemy. But I agree with the good colonel here that we've got. We're really close to Baghdad, and if that chopper is within 50 miles of Baghdad, that means our forces are getting closer. In the next 48 hours, I believe it's going to be extremely key. We've got some really bad weather coming in. Those precision-guided munitions don't know the difference between bad weather and good weather. We're going to still be pounding Baghdad, and it's going to give us some time to solidify our forces around Baghdad. And if I were the elite guard, I would really have to consider what's going to happen in the next 48 hours.
Sir Dave Hunt, don't our pilots, helicopter pilots, have the same emergency radios that yours do?
That's correct.
Right. So what they've got is if they had time, they would have put a thermal grenade to blow up the helicopter, which tells me that they had to get out of there quick. Probably saw some guys running. They've got a radio they won't turn on until they're in a secure location. If you remember the kid in Bosnia, we got him after 4 days.
Right.
So they're running. When they hide, they're sure they can turn it on. They'll turn it on and get a signal. We'll come get them. But yeah.
Good point, David.
Major General, let me ask you about this. It seems like one of Baghdad's only air defenses is they've got these rings of oil that they light on fire, and then there's a huge plume of smoke. And they think that our laser-guided missiles can't actually see through it. Do those flaming rings of oil do anything to slow you down? Because we see some smoke in the distance there in Baghdad, and there is a Reuters report that apparently there have been 6 loud explosions within the last hour there. But does that diversion work?
No, it doesn't. Not with precision-guided munitions. If you're going with munitions with GPS or laser-guided, those fires aren't going to cause us a problem at all.
And General, I know that you directed the civilian soldiers that were called up for active duty. What is the difference between those soldiers and the soldiers that are in there and active duty nonstop? I mean, are they as prepared? Do you have to use them in a different capacity, or are they, fit and ready to go?
They're frontline young men and women. Usually in the National Guard and Reserves, we're a little older, a little bit more experienced. The only thing that our young men and women do are trained to do combat. Not to so much as to run bases and whatnot. They're extremely capable. They've got the latest equipment. The Air Force has done an incredible job in equipping our Guard and Reserve, second to none. And so we're flying the frontline equipment, and same with the Army Guard and Army Reserve.
Major General Paul Weaver, we thank you very much, sir, for joining us today from the map room. And
Good morning.
Colonel Hunt, let me ask you just a real quick exit question. After a tough weekend like we had, you're in command of a bunch of guys and women. What do you tell them?
You've done good. Let's go get them. And the truth about any POWs. The thing that kills units are rumors. And good leaders will get up and tell their soldiers the truth. This is what we know. Any questions? Good. Now, get some rest. Let's go kill them.
Even if you're running the 101st Airborne,
absolutely,
one of your
that's
own
the worst
throws a
one.
grenade.
That's the worst rumor.
And
that's the worst rumor, because they're going to talk terrorism. This is a wacko kid.
Yeah.
Everyone says it, and he did a terrible thing, and you want to get that rumor out real fast.
Speaking of killing, though, I was asking you earlier about the Geneva Convention rules regarding these Iraqi soldiers who put up the white flags, hands up in the air, and then pick up their arms again and attack. What kind of information does that send to the guys who are out there? I mean, next time the Iraqis put up the hands, throw the white flag, they're not going to be as trusted.
A less disciplined country than ours would shoot the next person to put a white flag up.
Yeah.
But you can't. And we will not do that. We will get worse. We will get even better. They caught us. We made them a couple. This happens. You get tired. You make a mistake. And we got caught. Sure, it'll never happen again. But we won't wipe out people with white flags. We'll just cause them to do things at a distance. They won't get as close.
Right.
And everybody will be stopped now. They got lucky.
They would love for us to do exactly that, to start wiping out units.
Right, that will not happen. These Marines, these Army guys, the Brits, we got the Poles. They're too good to do that. There are some armies, we happen to be fighting one of them, that would, but not ours.
Colonel David Hunt, thanks very much for early morning duty today.
You're welcome. Nice seeing you guys.
There is so much going on. We're going to take you back to the front in a little while. But right now, how many times has Adam Housley had the gas mask on in the last 3 or 4 days?
3? Well, he had it 3 today. Since we got on the air 2 hours ago, it's a good sign, Adam. We can see your face for the first time.
Brian, it's always nice to not have one of these things on. After a while, it starts to hurt your chin. But, of course, we wear them every time it goes off to be safe. We've had 3, as you talked about. Now, I've confirmed of those 3 warning signals, Brian, that we've had 3 missiles shot in our direction. And it might sound confusing for a moment, so listen, I'll clarify. 3 warnings, 3 missiles shot towards us. Of those 3 warnings, 1 detected something launched that never entered Kuwait airspace. So that means basically 2 of the warnings had 3 missiles spread between them. 2 of the missiles landed in the Gulf. The third one was shot down by a Patriot in the northern part of this country. So once again, thus far, good news for Kuwaitis, people that live here, also for our military out in the desert. These missiles thus far have not been effective, and hopefully it remains that way until the war has finished. Now, we move from that to the search and rescue missions that could be going on. The military won't confirm whether or not we're having search and rescue missions because they don't want to jeopardize any operations. But if one is going on right now for the 2 missing pilots or some of the other missing soldiers, it most likely would be involved with a 332nd Search and Rescue Wing that is based out in the Kuwaiti desert at a base. Of course, we can't tell you where the location is. Now, the primary mission of these guys with their Pavok helicopter is to conduct day or night operations into hostile territory to recover downed aircrew or other isolated personnel. They can also medevac as well. The Pavok, of course, is a highly modified version of the Black Hawk helicopter. It features an upgraded communication system. If targeted by an aircraft or a missile, it has a radar warning receiver and infrared jammer. It's equipped with 2 machine guns that can fire up to 4,000 rounds per minute, or that's 66 rounds per second. Now, with that in mind, each Pavok crew has a crew of 6. They include an aircraft commander, co-pilot, flight engineer, gunner, and 2 parajumpers. Everyone on board carries side arms in case of emergency.
We're the Air Force's 911. You know, they're police department, fire department. 24/7. We go at a moment's notice. We sit strip alert. These aircraft are ready to go at a moment's notice. And when we go to do our job, that means somebody's having a bad day.
Iraq, to the north, where the Iraqi sabotage oil wells in Rumaila are now unsafe. They've been redesignated that today. Of course, that was one of the first spots that the Americans and the coalition moved into to try to secure when the ground war did begin. The Rumaila, of course, one of the larger oil fields in Iraq. 9, again, are said to have been sabotaged. It was redesignated this morning because of more hostile fire in the region. Rumaila, the fields themselves are capable of pumping more than 1 million barrels per day, which is nearly half of Iraq's total output. The concern was, of course, that there were more oil wells that could be sabotaged, and also at the same time, the safety of reporters could also be in jeopardy because they took a crew there yesterday to take some pictures of the area today. Rather large contingent was planning on heading up there with the military. That was canceled because of the unsafe area. Kuwait and also some other foreign oil firefighters remain on standby along the border to go up there and assess the situation. They too will not be taken there until that area is secured. Now, back here live in Kuwait City once again, we were told by the military yesterday, after roughly 24 to 28 hours without a warning signal, that we were not out of the woods, even though people here are becoming quite complacent. Not people with Fox or in our hotel, but just the general attitude of the community. You can look out in the street when an alarm was going off. Most people were just walking. They weren't running or putting on their masks. But there is still a concern here, guys, that more missiles could be headed in our way and potentially some with gas. Now, that has not been found thus far gas-wise, but as you can tell, just since Fox and Friends began, missiles are still being shot in this direction and thus far have not caused any damage or injuries. Back to you guys in New York.
All right, Adam Housley live in Kuwait City in a rare moment where he's not wearing the gas mask.
Steve, we opened up the show and the first question was about the weather, and it was starting a sandstorm. In fact, Oliver North we went out to, and he says we're in the middle of a sandstorm right now, although he didn't even put his goggles on. That just shows you what a tough Marine he is.
Actually, a big sandstorm is going to be coming up tomorrow. We're going to show you the weather map for the theater a little later on. But right now, let's go out to Steve Harrigan. He is live in Jordan, where he's talking about this. If you're just waking up, Saddam Hussein was on television. The big question is, was it live or was it tape? Steve?
Morning, Stevie and Brian. A whole lot of news today coming across the screen on Iraqi state-controlled television. First, a short time ago, they were showing pictures of a U.S. Apache helicopter that they say they shot down. Actually, Iraq is saying they shot down 2 Apache helicopters. The one they showed on state television with U.S. markings all intact, missiles still on board. The Iraqis say that 2 farmers, or peasants, they say, shot down these 2 Apache helicopters. So far, there's no word on the crew. Of course, what these Apaches carry a crew of 2 members, but the Pentagon is confirming only 1 downed helicopter at this time. The Iraqi information minister is saying that they have shot down 2. He said it was a dark day for the invading forces. Also, Saddam Hussein today appearing on Iraqi state television. He gave a 20-minute address, an address that Iraqi state media said would be historic. Instead, it turned out to be largely an appeal to Iraqis, an appeal for them to fight. He appealed on several different levels. Saddam Hussein said we have to defend our land, quote, from the invader. He said, this is our homeland, our fatherland. This is the land that they want to occupy, so appealing to nationalism. He was also appealing to religion. He said, God commands you to cut the throats of the infidel. He promised paradise to anyone who died in the fighting, and he said all Muslims around the world should join this battle. So appeals for all Iraqis, not just the soldiers, but even villagers, to support this fight. Now, in that speech, of course, the big question is whether he was dead or alive in that early morning Thursday cruise missile attack. This speech certainly not putting to rest any rumors. No hard evidence in this one way or another. It appears to be a videotaped, dated speech. Some references to battles, some references to specific commanders, but no hard evidence on when this was taped. Back to you guys in New York.
All right, Steve Harrigan with the very latest from the region. Meanwhile, big news, it looks as if we have seized a chemical site. The big question is it a place where they've built bombs or something else chemical-oriented? Right now, let's go down to D.C.
Yeah, Tim Turvan is a former UN weapons inspector. He is joining us from Washington. Tim, how long does it take to find out whether or not this truly is a chemical weapons plant or just a plant where there were chemicals?
I think they can ascertain very quickly whether it is capable of making chemical weapons.
What do they look for?
In particular, if they're looking for VX, which I think is the #1 suspect for the chemical program, they'll be looking for steel reactor vessels with glass lining, because that's a characteristic of one of the steps of making VX.
And if they're trying to hide that this is a chemical plant, is it easy to get rid of that stuff? Because, I mean, they had advance notice that we were coming in the next, week or so. Are you able to mask the intent of that plant very easily or not?
It would be easy for them to remove a reactor vessel, but then you would notice that one was missing. And also they would be able to then take samples from the soil, from the air, from swipes on the pipes and things like that, which they could then analyze either for the raw materials that go into the making VX, or for decomposition products of VX, or even traces of VX itself.
Right.
So that will take a bit longer to analyze and come to a conclusion on.
The place where they may have found the stuff, or at least where they're looking into maybe having chemicals, and the term was huge stash, if it is indeed true, is Najaf. We understand it's 90 miles south of Baghdad, surrounded by an electrical fence. There it is. And I'm wondering, Tim, have you ever been there? Have you ever heard rumors about Najaf being anything?
No, I haven't been there, nor have I heard rumors of it being a major chemical site. Obviously, if the inspectors knew that it was had rumors of it being there, they should have been there. One of the problems, of course, with inspectors is you can't do much good unless you know where to go and look. And I think if this is indeed a major chemical weapons production site, it will point up the limitations of inspecting in a country which is determined to cheat.
Well, we don't know for sure whether or not they were producing weapons of mass destruction there yet. We hope to know perhaps later in the day. But it sure looks suspicious. It's a 100-acre site. It was camouflaged. It had stuff over the top of certain buildings. Apparently, there was an electrical fence around the darn thing as well. It's not like it's a baby aspirin factory or anything like that. We also understand that at least one of the generals is apparently cooperating, and outside of the perimeter, apparently they located a bunch of the berets that a number of the soldiers were wearing, as if they were, getting rid of the evidence, trying to get out of the Republican Guard outfit and into civilian clothes. It does look suspicious.
It certainly does. And one of the footprints we used to look at for sites to go and inspect on just from the aerial surveillance photography we had was this perimeter fence, signs of camouflage. And of course, once you get there, is it a military facility? And if so, what is the seniority of the officer in charge? Because all of these things point to a secret military facility of some importance to the regime.
Do you know, Tim, if there's a dual use, excuse this naive lack of chemical knowledge question, can someone claim dual use?
Certainly for the production equipment, they can claim dual use for pretty much every piece of production equipment. One of the things that is very difficult to inspect for chemical weapons production is the production itself, because you have two ways of producing. You can do what's called line production, where you have two lines feeding in raw materials. There's a reaction going on in the vessel, and then the product is coming out in a continuous stream. That's not what happens in these dual-use places. You have what's called batch production, where basically you have a great big tub. you put in the chemicals, you pour out the product at the end. Then you can put in a different set of chemicals the next day. So if you have that sort of batch production, you can use a facility 364 days a year for legitimate purposes, and one day a year you can make up a big brew of chemical weapons.
Of course, they found this place on the road to Baghdad. It was just, we don't know how many kilometers off the main drag, that strip of asphalt that eventually will lead to the capital city of Iraq. Clearly, our guys out there in the Humvees and whatnot, they got intelligence information, Tim, from our intel community. There's a real good chance that we've had this all along, and we simply did not trust the UN weapons inspectors with the really good, juicy stuff, right?
There's a possibility of that, certainly, because one of the things that is problematic with doing inspections is so much of this stuff is highly portable that even if you have excellent intelligence today, by the time you get there tomorrow, the real smoking gun evidence could have been moved away. And I guess there could be a logic for saying don't give any of the intelligence, because when we get there we want to be able to uncover it and show it to the world rather than have the Iraqis sanitize it before we get there.
Absolutely. Tim Trevon, former weapons inspector, thanks very much for joining us today.
Well, I would hope
My pleasure as always.
I would hope that it wasn't that we'd be able to trust the weapons inspectors enough to give them information, and that we're getting the information now from the captured generals.
What Jim Dunnigan said when he was on in the 6 o'clock hour, as Edie waved at somebody off screen.
Because we have, it's very indicative of the change. I don't know if you can take the outside camera shot down here, but it is indicative of, I think, the mood of the country. And we have, I don't know, over a dozen folks out here with
Can
God
you zoom
Bless
in
the
on the
USA
little,
signs.
oh, here's one right here.
And then we do have one person out there who is, I don't want to say anti-USA, but there's
Anti-Fox.
anti-Fox or anti-war effort. But it is kind of that the nation's getting, lopsided. Once there's a lot of talk until you get into action, and then the bulk of the nation,
78%.
rallies behind
78% believes that this war is just, according to the Washington Post.
And in the meantime, something like 65% of those polled in the last couple of days by the New York Times said that they thought it would be a very fast war. It would be over and done with in weeks.
Which high school are these kids from?
Months. It's from John P. Stevens High School. It's the Bridges program.
And they all have off this period.
It's, as we know, it's spring break for many communities around the New York City
Yes,
area.
we do know that.
We sure do.
All of our kids are on spring break.
Not ours.
Oh, really? So
they were off
Peter's
in
available
February.
to babysit.
With your kids?
You're not trying to get an easy out. 28 minutes before the top of the hour. What's the latest with Iraqi Operation Freedom? Well, Lauren Green's got the latest.
Hey, good morning, guys. Thank you very much. It's the latest. Coalition forces bombard Baghdad with the strongest airstrike since the beginning of shock and awe. The latest bombing comes after Saddam Hussein addressed his country on Iraqi TV. U.S. intelligence is studying the broadcast right now to determine if it was really Saddam on the tape. U.S. forces may have found a chemical weapons factory. It covers more than 100 acres in the town of Najaf, 90 miles outside of Baghdad. But the Pentagon can't say for sure if the plant was being used to make chemical weapons. The mother of an American POW says she just wants her son to come home. He's one of 12 U.S. soldiers to go missing and believed to be in Iraqi custody. The Red Cross is pushing for access to any captured Americans. And that is the latest on Operation Iraqi Freedom. Let's go back to you guys upstairs.
All right. Lauren Green, thank you very much.
So much we don't understand about this operation. We heard Basra was secured for a while. We heard Qasr was secured for a while. Nazari was secure for a while. And then that all changed. Then some of it did change. And next thing you know, we're decided, let's leave those cities intact somewhat. There's some turbulence there, but we have a bigger fish to fry, and that's Baghdad.
And, of course, they got them secured enough that they could go buy them on the way to Baghdad, indeed. Mike Emanuel is live at the Pentagon, where they're tracking the progress. He joins us live. Hey, Mike.
Well, Steve, good morning to you. Good morning to Edie and Brian as well. No official reaction from the Pentagon so far to the latest Saddam Hussein tape, but U.S. military officials say they are skeptical and think that it is likely dated. As coalition forces make their way toward Baghdad, Saddam Hussein was shown on Iraqi state television a little earlier this morning. In the speech, Saddam Hussein promised Allied forces would be crushed and that victory would be there soon. But there were no obvious references to recent developments in the war, leading many to believe it is old tape. British Defense Secretary Jeff Hoon this morning says the tape offers no proof Saddam Hussein is still alive. Meanwhile, defense officials say the U.S. military has 2 high-ranking Iraqi officers in custody. U.S. troops surrounded a facility at Najaf, a city 90 miles south of Baghdad. At this point, Pentagon officials say they are not sure if it's a chemical weapons facility. More investigation is needed, and it's our understanding experts are on the way there for analysis. So U.S. military officials keep getting asked when they'll find the goods on Saddam Hussein.
I think we'll find WMD once we have had an opportunity to occupy Baghdad, stabilize Iraq, talk to Iraqis that have participated in the hiding and in of the development of it, and it will take some time. We should not expect to immediately come across it, although there are reports that some units in the vicinity of El Kut may have some type of chemical weapons. And of course, we're taking the necessary precautions to deal with that. But I have no doubt that we'll find weapons of mass destruction, but you shouldn't think it's going to happen tomorrow.
Finally, to the shocking videotape that's aired on several Middle East television networks. It shows U.S. soldiers after they were apparently executed and U.S. POWs after they were apparently tortured and beaten. Pentagon officials expressing outrage, shock, and anger about this latest tape. Steve, Edie, and Brian, back to you.
All right, Mike, thanks very much. The big question many on Capitol Hill have asked over the last month or so, how much is all of this going to cost?
Well, that was the argument. Can we afford a tax cut? And I think that that a lot of people brought up a very legitimate point, and that is, if we don't know how much the war costs, how do we know how much we can afford for a tax cut? And that apparently may be determined very quickly.
We're going to find out how much today.
Wendell Goer is live at the White House. Hey, Wendell.
Well, the lawmakers will find out how much today. It won't be long after that we find out. The president dividing his day between the war on Iraq and domestic matters, with the war receiving the lion's share of his attention. He's having lunch with the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and then the meeting you guys are talking about 4:30 this afternoon with the House and Senate Republican and Democratic leaders of the Appropriations Committee. The president expected to ask them for about $80 billion to pay for the war in Iraq and to win the peace following that. Lawmakers have been pressing him for this figure for a couple of weeks. Officials say that the official supplemental budget request will go up to Capitol Hill within a matter of days. The president also meeting today with his National Economic Council to talk about domestic matters. The first order of business, however, a meeting with Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld and National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice this morning. Mr. Bush was on the telephone to Rice and Rumsfeld several times last night, getting updates about various battles going on in Iraq. The president and First Lady returned from Camp David yesterday after spending the weekend there, both outraged that pictures of dead American soldiers and prisoners of war had been broadcast on Arab television. Mr. Bush said he'd prayed for the soldiers and their families. Aides say he has not watched the gruesome videotape. He warned Iraqi military officials to treat American prisoners of war humanely.
The POWs I expect to be treated humanely. And just like we're treating the prisoners that we have captured humanely. If not, the people who mistreat the prisoners will be treated as war criminals.
The president convened his entire war cabinet at Camp David. There's the vice president, secretaries of state and defense, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, CI Director Tenet and National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice, among others, gathered around the table. They're also able to connect via secure video channel with General Tommy Franks, who is leading the fight in the Persian Gulf. Experts are studying the latest videotape of Saddam Hussein, checking to see that the voice print matches, although officials here say that is only half the puzzle. The real issue is when the tape was recorded, and on that matter, it may be significant that Hussein apparently praises a unit whose commander actually surrendered, though officials won't speculate exactly what that means yet. The president said yesterday it's important for the American people to realize we are just in the beginning phases of the war, though he said it may seem like a long time because of all the action on TV. He said air and ground campaigns are achieving their objectives. He says Iraq's southern oil fields have been largely secured. In fact, he says most of the south of Iraq is under control of coalition forces. He said there's been good progress securing the area that Iraq used to launch Scud missiles into Israel in 1991. The president says he is thankful Iraq hasn't yet used chemical or biological weapons. He says the coalition is pursuing a strategy to make it difficult for the Iraqis to do so. Steve, Edie, Brian?
Wendell Guller early up this morning at the White House.
All right, 20 minutes before the top of the hour.
One of the most difficult things for Americans, because we're not a pro-war or bloodthirsty bunch, is when you start seeing the casualties and what you don't know. When a helicopter goes down and you don't know what's happened to the pilots, it just raises so many concerns for us as well as many of you at home, a lot of military families watching. As we do know, there is an Apache helicopter down. You've seen the video here on Fox News Channel, and David Lee Miller is live at CENTCOM in Doha, and he has the very latest for us on what they know and what they're trying to find out. David?
Good morning, Edie. There are still many more questions than answers. CENTCOM is confirming, though, that an Apache helicopter did go down. They are not saying why. Was it mechanical failure? Was it enemy fire? We simply do not know. If you've seen the pictures, it looks as if the Apache is, in fact, intact. No word also on the two-person crew. The Iraqi information minister appeared on television not a long time ago to say that the Iraqis have not only one, but two, they claim, two Apache helicopters, although they only broadcast pictures of one. They also say that they are going to consider later broadcasting pictures of that second chopper, and they say photographs of the crew. The Iraqi information minister also saying a short time ago that the Iraqis have in their custody now not only American POWs, but British POWs as well. And joining me right now to discuss that issue as well as the progress of the war itself is Lieutenant Colonel Ronnie McCourt. He is a British spokesman here at CENTCOM. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Colonel, for joining us this morning. Firstly, let me ask you, I know that the search is underway in Iraq for two missing British soldiers. Might they be in the custody of the Iraqis? What can you tell us about how they disappeared and where they might be?
Well, they disappeared during the course of an action with the Iraqis when there was a firefight, and they are exactly that. They're missing, and we don't know the whereabouts, so they could be anywhere, and that's all we know at the moment. We're obviously still trying to find them, and as soon as we find them and we know where whereabouts for sure, we'll let you know.
With the Iraqi information minister Sahaf saying a short time ago that he has British POWs in custody, the Iraqis have them in custody. Do you believe that? And is it possible that these are the soldiers they're talking about?
The Iraqi minister may say many things, and I don't believe much of what any of those officials say. So we'll wait and see.
Okay, let's move on to the subject of Qusar. I understand that British troops are moving into that region to take part in the Allied advance. Some have suggested that British troops might have be specially equipped to handle this type of fighting using their experience in Northern Ireland. Could you elaborate? Would you agree with that? And what would their role be in Qusar?
We, of course, have had over 30 years' experience of operations in Northern Ireland, and so situations like this where you have small pockets of enemy who pop up here and there, perhaps sometimes unexpectedly, we can deal with that. We've got not so much the equipment, but the training and the tactics and the knowledge to make sure that we will quickly dampen that down.
Why are we receiving what at least appear to be so many contradictory reports? One minute we hear that a particular town has been taken, the next minute we hear that the fighting is continuing. Can you tell us, is there a problem in communication, or are there surprises on the ground?
There are no contradictory reports from the military. We fully understand that this is not a reality TV show or a video game. A determined band of enemy who want to keep causing a nuisance will continue to do so, and we can't just do it in one quick go. We realise it's going to take time, and we will be painstaking, but we will prevail. We will make sure that we have that area completely sterile so that we can move in humanitarian aid as quickly as possible.
And finally, will there be problems bringing in the humanitarian aid? I understand there's a concern that some areas may be booby-trapped with mines and the like. Will there be a delay?
Again, of course, we have extensive experience of this, in not just Northern Ireland, but in the Balkans, Bosnia, Kosovo. And what we'll aim to do is make sure that no humanitarian aid comes into Qusar until we're absolutely certain that the minesweepers have done what they have to do, and that any possible explosive devices have been neutralized and rendered neutralized, so that we don't have any possibility of the humanitarian aid people getting injured.
Lieutenant Colonel Ronnie McCourt, thank thank you very much for your time this morning, sir. We appreciate it very much. And before we throw it back to New York, very quickly, I'm going to ask the cameraman to pan out to a very wide shot. I want to show you the local newspaper here in Doha, Qatar. We're going to get a wide shot here because I don't want any recognizable images to be on television. This is the front page of the local newspaper, and you can see even in this wide shot that it shows some of the graphic images that were broadcast yesterday on the Al Jazeera satellite television station. Much of the newspapers this morning in the Arab world look very much like this, these very graphic images on the front pages of newspapers in this part of the world. The Iraqis continuing to do their best, not just on the battlefield, but in the propaganda war as well. That's the latest from CENTCOM in Doha. Back to you guys in New York.
And that's one of our allies. Good. 15 minutes before the top of the hour, we're joined right now by the former New York City mayor and author of Leadership, Rudy Giuliani. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning.
Talk about leadership. This week, the president will be more visible. Last week, towards the end when the war started, he wanted to make it seem, some said, that the military guys were in control. Do you like that leadership strategy?
I think the president has demonstrated, leadership throughout, going back to September 11 and his first speech to Congress, in which he outlined the strategy that we're following now. It's been consistent. It's been very much a matter of focus for him, even where public opinion has swayed here and there. He's remained very, very focused, said the same things. We're going to end global terrorism, and this is a part of it.
From the war front to the home front, later on today, that guy is going to go up to Capitol Hill and explain how much money it's going to take. We understand $20 billion will be involved with Homeland Security. Of course, that's something very close to your heart, having gone through 9/11 here in New York City. Do you feel locally, and not just New York City, but other big towns, everybody's safe enough at this stage?
No, of course. You can never feel safe enough. I mean, the reality is that a lot of things are being done now that weren't done before September 11, before the government and everyone focused on all the different things that could happen. Probably even more now this year than last year because of the fact that we're at war. But you can never feel that you're safe enough in a society like ours. I mean, we have vulnerabilities that are just obvious. So you keep preparing, you relentlessly prepare, you do everything you can think of, and there are always going to be gaps. And you have to just function and move forward.
But after we got one of the big fish, that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed in Al-Qaeda, a lot of people go, whew, he was the planner, he was the brain. Maybe we've made some real progress.
I think of it like the government's effort against organized crime in the 1980s. You can't take them all out at once. You can't end it like that. Each major figure that you arrest, each major figure that you take out, and when you seize their assets, the way the government did originally, you keep weakening them. You don't eliminate them, you weaken them. And they're weakened now, but, I mean, it's still a force to be reckoned with and something that requires a tremendous amount of preparation.
There are a lot of similarities between the war being fought overseas and the war being fought here on the home front. You were in charge of, our soldiers on the streets every day, the firefighters, the police officers, the emergency technicians. We have a lot of military families that watch Fox News, a lot. This morning, many of them are waking up and they're concerned that their daughter or their son could be killed, could become a POW. How do you reinforce the knowledge in these families that what their loved ones are doing is something that is helping our entire nation? How much they're appreciated.
I think you just keep saying it to them. I mean, the reality is the bravery, the dedication that the members of the military, the uniformed services show is awesome. And what I've found is that families share that. They understand it. I mean, they understand the risks, they understand the sacrifice, and they also understand that everything will be done to try to protect, to save their loved one. If someone is captured, everything is going to be done to try to make sure they're treated safely and recovered. And the amount of emphasis on protecting the uniformed members in this particular war, I think, is tremendous. I mean, I think a great deal of thought has been given to
You've
it.
also seen the families after a loss. What can we and the people in their communities, Shauna from Texas and the folks from Kansas, what can the people around them do to help those families?
Let them know they're not isolated. Let them know they're not alone. Let them know that the entire community is there. The entire United States is there for them and for their children, no matter what happens. That they have our support. You can't believe how important that is. when you go through either the fear of losing someone that you love, whether it's a firefighter, police officer, member of the military, or actually find out that you've lost someone, the feeling of isolation is tremendous. And people have to rally around and let them know that they're very much appreciated. They're going to be very much a part of everything that we do, and their children are going to be taken care of.
This is a little bit different, but very close to what you know, and that's the protesters over the weekend. Tens of thousands showed up in the streets. Now, we've bolstered up the police, and it's costing us a whole lot of money to protect against a Homeland Security problem. Those police now have to control that crowd, and maybe crowd members here that want to get out of control. What's your reaction?
It's a necessary part of a democracy. I mean, you know, I think they're wrong. I think that the statement they're making is incorrect. I think the war is necessary, justified, and a matter of self-defense. But people are entitled to an opposite viewpoint.
What about the disorderly ones?
And that's what we're fighting for.
What about
they can't go to the point where they, you know, where they break laws. But up to that point, it's a necessary part of what we're fighting for.
That's part of what we're fighting for, is the ability to say anything you want.
People agree with war, agree that this is necessary, as I do. The 70%, 80% agree with that. 15, 20% are on the other side of it. I guess, you know, that's the way it is in a democracy. They can't break the law. They shouldn't block traffic, do things that are illegal, but they have a right to express their viewpoint. And I was glad to see, because I think it's good for our military members overseas, to see that people were demonstrating in favor of the war, in favor of, I think the people overseas need to see what the actual breakdown of opinion is in this country, that the overwhelming majority of Americans support them, some don't. Some don't support the war. I shouldn't say they don't support the soldiers. I think everyone must support the military. I mean, I would hope. I hope everyone is supporting them, and they're coming back safely.
A moment ago, you had a message for anybody who has a loved one over there. Would you have a message? After all, you are referred to as America's mayor. Would you have a message to the men and women who are wearing the uniform over there right now? Because they're watching.
Yeah, my message is that they're just our very best, and they're demonstrating that. And I think all of us would like our children to be like them, to have that kind of dedication, that kind of patriotism, and professionalism. When you watch the way this is being done, it's being done very, very professionally, and I think they have our respect and our support. And I mean, I think everyone is with them. Whether there's a disagreement on the war, I think everyone is with them.
The book is called Leadership. Still available now in Top 10. Talk about people want to be the best in their company, want to be the best in their scout team, want to be the best mayor. Go ahead and buy the book.
It was really a labor of love in writing it, and I'm now starting to work on another one, but I really enjoyed doing that book.
So I could actually be the best scout leader if I read your book?
I think you could.
Okay,
I think there's a whole chapter.
Right. Just on Cub Scouts, wearing the uniform the right way. The Weeblo, the inside story.
All right. Rudy, thanks very much.
You've done a good job. This has been a very tiring time, and it's going to continue. You've done a very good job.
Stay close. Keep answering our calls if you don't mind.
Thank you.
We've had some great correspondents around the world keeping an eye on what's going on.
That's right. Jennifer Eccleston is joining us now on the video phone. She is live and talking about the refugee problem. Is there much of that, or are they able to handle the folks who have come in?
Oh, hello, guys. There's not much of it at all. Now, the Jordanian government, the United Nations, and the Jordanian Red Crescent Society have erected 2 camps on the Jordanian side of the Jordan-Iraq border, and they were anticipating upwards of 60,000 refugees. They stand prepared right now to expand these camps to assume 45,000 refugees, but we're just not seeing that number right now. Just down the road from me, this is a camp just for the Iraqis. They have not seen a single Iraqi pass through that camp. We did see 3 Iraqi nationals cross over. That was a mother and her 2 children, but she was married to an Egyptian, so she was repatriated to Egypt. Where I am now is a refugee camp that holds foreign nationals, third country nationals. Now, those are guest workers and students who were either living or working in Iraq. Now, they have seen some 600 of those guest workers and students pass by this camp. Right now, we have a total of 168 refugees here. Normally, they stay for about 72 hours. They're processed, and then they're off back to their their homeland. We know that there are a good number of Somalis, some Eritreans and South African students who were studying at the University of Baghdad who do not want to go home because they are getting a free education in Baghdad. They want to go back, so they will stay here until the war is over. Now, I don't know if you could see behind me through the video camera, through the video phone rather, what the situation is like on the ground. Let me give you an idea of that. They live in these very small canvas tents. We are in the middle of the Jordanian desert. They are exposed to the elements. It's very windy here. There are a number of sandstorms. It's cold during the day, and it's even colder at night. Now, there's a limited medical facility here, and the medical personnel here say they've been treating a number of those refugees for hypothermia and hypertension. Now, the border is just off to my left. I can see the main road that travels between here and the border. We've seen very little traffic. It is open, however. It is still a military zone, and there is a very large Jordanian military presence there. Now let's move on to the political front. Jordan in a very precarious situation here. Not only are they worried about the economic ramifications of a large influx of refugees, which could still happen, but they're also worried about public reaction to the war. The overwhelming majority of Jordanians are opposed to the war with Iraq, and as a result of that, the government has said that they will not take part in any military action. They also will not let any American or coalition forces cross over from Jordan into Iraq, although we do know that there are a fair amount. They say 600, but there could be several thousand Americans who are located at an air base just around here. But according to the Jordanians and the Americans, those people have not crossed, and those soldiers have not crossed over into Iraq. Back to you.
Jennifer Ecclestein with the very latest. We thank you very much.
Talking about an underpublicized story, and that's the Turkish-Kurdish situation, and the Turks getting a little frisky in the corner with us without having troops in there. We're almost dependent on satellite pictures.
Meanwhile, last night, 1 billion people watched the Academy Awards telecast from the Kodak Theater.
True?
Absolutely. 1 billion people around the world.
Way.
This was the big moment that people had anticipated, and it happened.
Convinced.
Michael Moore, the documentarian, won an Oscar for Bowling for Columbine, and this was his acceptance speech.
We live in a time where we have a man sending us to war for fictitious reasons, whether it's the fictitious of duct tape or the fictitious of orange alerts. It was so sweet backstage. You should see it. The Teamsters are helping Michael Moore into the trunk of his limo.
If you noticed, he made a statement, but he was booed by a large portion of the crowd.
He also said, "Shame! We're against this war, Mr. Bush. Shame on you! Shame on you!" Well, he got some cheers, but a lot of boos. Mike Gallagher is a nationally syndicated radio host with the Salem Radio Network. He's in Dallas. Mike, were you cheering or booing?
I almost threw the remote right through the TV last night. But guys, we shouldn't be surprised. This is a man who capitalized and made a profit off of the slaughter of children and a teacher in Littleton, Colorado. I mean, that's what Bowling for Columbine was. He actually had one of the victims wheeled into a Kmart and asked for their money back for the bullets lodged in their body from Columbine in order to make a healthy profit. The man was booed roundly, and he clearly was Hollywood's village idiot last night.
You know, they were told pretty much to keep it down, and obviously they had their finger in the water. They knew they don't want to destroy their careers either way by doing something besides dressing in black. But Michael Moore is a guy that just thrives off this stuff.
Oh, he lives off it. He feeds off it, Brian. Guys, I mean, this is the man who loathes the Bill of Rights so, and specifically the Second Amendment, that's what the movie was all about. But he did betray himself last night. He started out talking about the fictional election of George Bush. I mean, these guys are still wallowing in the year 2000, and that's what motivates their whole hatred of this military action. I just cannot believe. I hope we remember that Steve Martin at the end did thank and salute the troops, many of whom are watching us right now, who watch dispatched from overseas. That's who Michael Moore spit in the face of. That's who he insulted. I guess they're fictional too, right, Michael? The men and women who are dying and being held prisoners of war, I guess they're just as fictional as your president. It was really despicable.
You know, during that soundbite we just ran, you could hear quite loudly the boos, but apparently at one point a lot of people stood up and applauded him. So there, you know, it's not like all Hollywood is pro-Bush war. That certainly is not the case.
I mean, Steve, let's remember they also gave Roman Polanski a standing ovation. Now, this is a guy, a pedophile, who wasn't there to accept his award for The Pianist because, of course, if he went to the United States, came here, he'd be arrested because of his rape charges of a young girl, and they're standing for this degenerate. So Hollywood, of course, is so out of touch with most of America that, again, this shouldn't surprise us. Still, shame on Michael Moore. Shame on what he did to the families of those who are waiting for their loved ones to come home or are now being held captive in Iraq.
I don't think that he said anything against the military. Clearly, he is no fan of the president. Susan, you know what? He didn't say anything. He didn't say, I'm not supporting our troops. Clearly, he doesn't want us to be in a war.
He's the commander-in-chief. He's the commander-in-chief of the military, and that's the problem. I mean, once this war started, listen, he could have his opinion. He could wear his stupid peace pin. He could do the Susan Sarandon peace sign.
Let's go to that. Yeah, Susan Sarandon and her husband did get a lot of applause because they came in, although they didn't say anything, they gave the peace signs.
Right.
Just like that. And also in attendance last night
that was a proper way to voice.
She could have worn a tie-dye T-shirt and smoked a big fat doobie and longed for the good old days of the 60s.
Well,
a doobie, by the way, is a controlled substance.
That's right. We don't know what was going on in the after party. Hey, thank you very much for joining us today, Mr. Gallagher, live from the Metroplex today.
Yeah, we'll be listening to you on the radio.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. It is currently 8 a.m. at the Pentagon, and it is 4 o'clock in the afternoon in downtown Baghdad. Meanwhile, our forces fight through fierce resistance on the road to Baghdad.
But now a sandstorm that Steve's going to show you later on is going to be stalling their advance for a bit. We will take you live out to the field and show you that as well. Saddam Hussein, we saw him on TV. Was it delayed? Was it something that had been taped a lot earlier
from the 60s?
Recently, he was on Iraqi state TV, and we'll discuss whether or not he gave any indication that we could tell if this was something recent, if he is alive. Plus, you're going to get to see the video. An American Apache helicopter goes down behind enemy lines. Now, the chopper landed in one piece. The pilots are nowhere to be seen. The chopper appears to be fine, and our military guys so far think that these pilots were able to escape. We'll talk about that and bring you the rest of the day's latest developments during our ongoing coverage of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
But right now, let's go to John Scott. He's down in the newsroom with the very latest on the war. Hey, John.
Steve, thank you. The Army's 3rd Infantry Division dashes north toward Baghdad. They are closing in on Karbala, just 50 miles south of the Iraqi capital, but a severe sandstorm has stopped them in their tracks, at least for now. And to the south, British troops exchange artillery fire with Iraqi resistance in Basra.